Welcome to the Mommy Zen Podcast with Marianne Clyde.
Hi, this is Marianne Clyde, and welcome to another episode of the Mommy Zen Podcast. Today our affirmation is, I am kind and considerate in all of my relationships. You know, my husband and I were spending some time with friends over the weekend. Now, he's been retired for over 3 years, and our friend is just getting ready to retire next month. Well, that upcoming event raised a bunch of very good questions about how couples can adjust during such situations. Of course, on the drive home, it sparked some great conversation between my husband and me. Knowing that I work with troubled marriages as a therapist and how each couple has their own unique problems, what my husband calls their unique footprint, he said, you should write an article about 5 things couples can do to improve the relationship. So here it is. That unique footprint that he was talking about consists of their personalities, their differences, and how those different personalities interact and understand each other. It also consists of what each person needs to feel loved, because not everybody feels loved in the same way. I spend weeks with couples figuring these things out and helping them understand themselves and each other, and that can actually see pretty remarkable changes in relationships, even in very troubled marriages, when each partner begins to see things from a different perspective. And yet there are a few things that are really rather universal that any couple can implement and see a sudden and substantial change in their relationships. The first of these things is give up the need to be right. I have a friend that she says, when I got married to my husband, I finally found Mr. Right. Little did I know, she said, that later I found out he was Mr. Always Right. Well, I find this phenomenon happening in most couples at one time or another. He's driving to Grandma's one way, and his wife says, "You should have turned left." "But this is the way to Grandma's," he says. "Yes, but you could save yourself 10 minutes by going the other way." "Well, I'm just going to go the way I know." "You never listen to me," she cries. "You're always nagging me," he says. And so it escalates and escalates from there, and they show up at Grandma's teary and chilly and easily ruin everybody's good time because of the chill in the air. This kind of scenario, if you think about it, is totally unnecessary. The truth is they were both right, and what's 10 minutes in the scheme of things? I teach couples all the time that if you're really right, there's no reason to prove it. You just are. You don't change it by arguing, and if you're right, there's no need to defend yourself. There are some possible new phrases that you might want to learn to implement. For example, "I never knew that," or "I never thought of it that way," or here's one for you, "You might be right," or "I'll try to remember that the next time," or maybe, "Really? Thanks for sharing." How about, "You might be right, but I feel more comfortable doing it this way this time." So if you find yourself always having to disagree for the sake of disagreement, or make your partner wrong, or you just learn to take a deep breath and bite your tongue, or practice one of the aforementioned statements. Then we run into the second thing, and it's pick your battles. Recognize that your partner has a right to a different way of doing things. This can be done a different way of loading the dishwasher, different way of talking to the kids, or putting on the toilet paper roll, or making the bed, different way of telling a story in front of your friends. It doesn't have to be the way you do it, or even the way you prefer. Your partner is an adult with different tastes, different temperament, different background, and differing habits. Yes, there really are people that squeeze the toothpaste from the middle of the tube and are still well-adjusted adults. So you just have to ask yourself, is it really all that important? Will it matter 100 years from now? If so, by all means speak up. But really, if he leaves the toilet paper upside down, can you just let it be? And then thirdly, and very importantly, speak respectfully at all times. It's really easy to let your guard down when you live with someone. It's easy to snap. It's easy to forget that that person on the other side of the couch has feelings too. When you pick up the phone, you're kind and respectful. Wouldn't you talk to a cashier at Walmart, you're respectful. When you shake hands with your neighbor at church, you're respectful. So you can be respectful at home. Being kind to one another and giving each other the grace and consideration you would give anyone else builds a strong foundation to any relationship and helps you weather the storms. And fourth, you need time together, even if you have to schedule it. I know a lot is made about date nights, and you might think you don't have time or even the money to do that. But face-to-face time with your spouse should always be a priority. Yes, family time is important. Family time with the kids is important, but the kids are going to leave at some point in your life, and if you find out you've not nurtured your relationship as a priority, you'll find that it's very empty and very quiet once the kids are gone. It doesn't need to be expensive, and it need not be elaborate, but it needs to be just the two of you. Take a walk, go hiking, bike riding, go bowling, or out to dinner or to a movie, or out for drinks. Send the kids to grandma's and have a quiet dinner in. Go out to breakfast or meet for lunch during the workday. There are ways of working around the expense of a sitter if that's a problem, but don't count on it just happening. Decide how often you need time together and get it on the calendar, preferably at least once a week. Yep, it takes some planning, and I know you don't always like to do the same things. So if that's the case, each of you can sit down and make a list of the things you'd like to do with the other person, and you alternate from one list to the other. Or each of you might take responsibility for every other date night, for making the arrangements, the reservations, the babysitter, etc. Be creative, surprise each other, and shake things up a bit. Try new things, and be resourceful. This time together can be used for staying up to date on the news in each of your lives, for planning vacations, for dreaming, or for just having fun, not for fighting. And lastly, the fifth thing, talk about things that are bothering you, but do it kindly. Do it when you're not tired. Do it when you're not in a hurry. Do it when you're ready. So often I hear one partner asking, "What's wrong?" and the other says, "Nothing." So if you're not ready to talk about it yet, say that. But set a time when you will be ready to address it. You might say, "I'm not ready to talk about it just now, but let's talk about it after the kids go to bed." If one partner sets a time, the other should respect that and not follow them around the house insisting that they talk now. We as adults need to learn to manage our anxiety. I know there are some people that just feel like it has to be addressed now. But as long as you have a time set for discussion, learn to leave it until then. Establish rules about communicating these things, such as no blaming. Stick to how you see the situation and how you feel. Don't assume that your partner knows something. Spell it out. And don't assign motives to your partner. You were angry. You were trying to get me mad. You were trying to get me to do something. You were trying to leave me out. If you want to know their motive, ask. And give your partner a chance to respond and clarify if you don't understand. Ask. As Stephen Covey suggested in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, seek first to understand and then to be understood. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache. If you apply any of these 5 suggestions to your relationship, it'll get better. You have to start somewhere. And not only do they work with your spouse, but they work with your kids. Try it. And remember the affirmation for today. I am kind and considerate in all of my relationships. This is Mary Ann Clyde for the Mommy Zen Podcast. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Mommy Zen Podcast. For nuggets of encouragement and strength throughout your day, follow Mary Ann on Twitter at mommy_zen and Facebook at facebook.com/mommyjustbreathe. Also, you can join our mailing list, leave comments, or ask questions by visiting mommy-zen.com.